Hi, this is Movie Plots. Today we are going to explain movie called Most Dangerous Game. Released in 2020. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In the opening scene, Dodge is seen waiting in a futuristic-looking waiting area for Tirofund. Due to his mounting debt, Dodge, a real estate developer in Detroit, is on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. The primary cause of his financial hardship is his inability to sell the Carrington, a dilapidated, high-rise office building that he purchased. Due to the building's terrible condition and lack of funding for renovation, Dodge has had trouble renting it out. Dodge's financial situation is made worse by the fact that his wife, Val, is carrying their first child. A secretary informs him that the company's executive, Miles Sellers, is ready for the meeting. Dodge enters Miles' futuristic, ominous office. Miles calmly informs the chief that if he takes part in a game that essentially involves going on a killing spree, he can become a multimillionaire. The chief appears to be aware of Dodge's precarious financial situation. Dodge is initially horrified that such a game even exists, so he declines Miles' invitation to play when he offers him the lucrative money. Dodge is in a tight spot, though, and Miles is able to convince him to agree in the end. To show how Dodge met Miles and got involved in the homicidal game, the next scene in this series jumps to a few days earlier. When he attended the University of Michigan, Dodge excelled in track and set numerous records. Early in the morning, a TV voiceover reveals that Dodge has just broken the record while taking a casual jog through the streets of the city. Dodge, however, has been experiencing excruciating headaches, and it's apparent that he is gravely ill. As he prepares breakfast at home and spills the eggs on the floor, we can see how his illness interferes with seemingly easy chores. He notices that his prescription costs are past due, which increases his tension. When we first meet Dodge's pregnant wife, Val, it's clear that Dodge isn't feeling well because crucial tasks like getting ready for birth depend on his career, which is failing. But Val is on their side and believes they can overcome this. Later, the couple visits Luger, the best buddy of Dodge. Luger lost money on his venture with Dodge as well, but he still has optimism and compassion for his closest buddy. One day, while strolling outside, Dodge is suddenly overcome by agony and collapses to the ground. When Dodge arrives at the hospital, the staff informs him that his brain cancer is terminal and that there is no treatment for the tumor in his brain. As he and Val leave the facility in dejection, a medical nurse hands him a business card for Tirofund. The nurse tells Dodge that it is rumored that the group offers financial aid to those who are terminally ill. Val is understandably devastated when Dodge tells her the news of his diagnosis. Then, Dodge explains to her that he no longer has health or life insurance because he sold his insurance to help offset some of his business expenses. Dodge's parents passed away and Val's parents are insolvent and they are unable to find any financial assistance from anywhere. The movie then brings the viewer back to the present day, where Dodge's and Miles' office is located. Beginning with a description of the dangerous game in which Dodge will be the victim. It is an ongoing search. Dodge earns a fixed sum of money for each hour he plays the game, and as he progresses through the levels, the hourly rate increases. If Dodge makes it to the end of the game, he can earn a total of $25 million. The whole sum of money will be put in a covert account held in Dodge's name, which Dodge may check to ensure that deposits are being made on an hourly basis. Miles claims that the hunters in the game are affluent, elite clients who hunt with the intention of killing and who desire desperate people to hunt. Since these hunters might be of any race or gender, Dodge won't know their appearance until they attack and show themselves to him. Dodge won't be aware of how many of them will be pursuing him in advance. They have the ability to ambush Dodge, and it's conceivable that more than one hunter may pursue him at once. Miles also clarifies the guidelines. Once the game has begun, the game cannot be paused or stopped. He is not allowed to leave the city or reveal to anybody that he is playing the game. If he disregards these guidelines, the game will continue until he passes away. Dodge cannot disclose this game to anybody, and the hunters are allowed to use any weapon except firearms in their attempts to kill him. Miles persuades Dodge that even if Dodge gets killed during the game, Dodge can still earn enough money to support Val and their unborn child financially for their whole life. All of this conversation is sufficient to persuade a frightened Dodge to consent to play in the game. Even though he doesn't make that choice immediately, he chooses to go through with it when Dodge's offer to invest in his indebted Carrington building is rejected by Jerry Pierce, a sought-after last-chance business investor. Dodge informs Val that he had a nice deal with Pierce that evening and claims to be going for a run. He later runs across Miles at a restaurant. Miles steals all of Dodge's possessions, including his phone, before the game begins at 6:46 a.m., but he leaves out his prescription and an ultrasound of his unborn child. Then Miles hands him a phone that will allow him to be tracked for 15 seconds every hour. The phone will inform the hunters of Dodge's present position. Val starts to see significant sums of money being transferred into Dodge's bank account while he runs about town attempting not to be murdered. As the game starts, Dodge encounters his first hunter, Nixon, a British guy, in a restroom of a shopping center. He succeeds in eluding Nixon, but the second hunter, a cowboy from the South named Regan, quickly approaches him. Val contacts Luger to assist her figure out what's happening after learning that Pierce had declined to invest in their building. She has now come to the conclusion that Dodge, who hasn't come home, is seriously in trouble and involved in criminal activity. Connell, a sinister henchman that Miles owns, frequently shows up at Hunter's crime scenes to clean up the mess and get rid of the evidence so that the game can stay a secret. The Tirofund headquarters, located in a different area of Detroit, are equipped with sophisticated computer hardware that tracks Dodge's whereabouts at all times and shows the streets he is on, whether he is in a car, a bus, a train, a ship, or on foot. The next scene depicts Dodge sneaking past both of his assailants and boarding a train. He then goes to a church to repent of his wrongdoing. He enters a confessional and tells the priest that he became entangled in something evil and is now powerless to free himself. Meanwhile, Val and Luger accidentally go to the bank branch where Dodge keeps the account in an effort to find out who is making the enigmatic deposits. They simply come across as being suspicious themselves, though. They quickly leave the bank after the desk clerk they were chatting with offers to call the manager for them. Val is worried when Dodge doesn't answer her calls. The police are unable to file a report of a missing person when she calls them. The mood in the room changes when Dodge learns that the priest, whose real name is Carter, is actually one of the hunters. Dodge strikes a follower at the church after mistaking him for a hunter. Carter, a psychologist, acknowledges using the background profile to track Dodge's movements. He uses his hammer to strike Dodge, hurting him. Dodge and Carter fight until Carter is finally confined to a small area, but Dodge gets struck with a hammer on the leg. Standing nearby, Connell learns about the events taking place inside the chapel. He then lets his boss, Miles, know about it. Dodge's leg injury means that he can no longer run. He tends to his wounds while planning how to appear to be a group of spectators who have just left a stadium after a game. Nixon chases after him, scanning the crowd until he spots Dodge. Fortunately, Dodge manages to temporarily elude the chase by jumping into the trunk of a family's car. Since her spouse hasn't contacted her, Val is worried at home. She looks through his file and finds the Tirofund business card. Dodge realizes that the car is about to leave Detroit. As it is against the rules of the game, he alarms the family to get out of the trunk as he notices that the family is heading in the direction of Birmingham. The husband attacks Dodge after being startled to see a stranger in their car trunk, but he only receives a beating. As soon as the wife calls the police to report the incident, Dodge apologizes for his rash actions and departs. The chase goes on until he boards a nearby taxi and gets in his car to drive home. Just as he enters the building, a motorcyclist strikes him with a rod. This is noticed by Val, who had been waiting for her husband, who then alerts Luger in a terrified manner. Dodge is being pursued by the motorcyclist as he hurriedly boards the taxi and takes off. Carter is revealed to be the biker. Dodge slams into a nearby tree with the car while avoiding any serious injuries. Dodge kills the psychologist, Carter, after he threatens to sexually assault Val. When Connell realizes the situation, he takes care of Carter's body. Then he updates Miles via email. While this is happening, Val follows the instructions on the business card and finds the address provided only to find the Tirofund building empty. Next, Dodge boards a tour ship since Reagan is still after him. However, when he discovers that Kennedy, the hostess on the cruise, is really another hunter, he still has to put up a fight. She is an excellent martial artist, therefore, she always wins in a battle, but just as Dodge is about to be killed by Kennedy, he sets her garments on fire. Later, when he flees on a nearby bridge, he succeeds in throwing her into the sea. In the following scene, a gang of thugs is seen grabbing Dodge and his phone, which displays a $15 million bank account. To Dodge's surprise, they realize that his medicine is bogus, but the thugs do not really care, they're only interested in getting paid. Dodge is therefore severely beaten when he tries to explain. A gunfight breaks out when the fifth and final hunter, LBJ, enters the fray, killing nearly all of the thugs. But just as LBJ is about to kill Dodge, one of the wounded thugs shoots him dead from behind. As a result, Dodge is given the chance to escape, but Nixon is right behind him. In order to avoid being apprehended by the police, Connell arrives on the scene and starts working right away to clean up the mess. Dodge just runs away from the pursuit after a nurse at the hospital confirms that his medication is fake and that there are no records of him ever being hospitalized. He calls Miles, who responds that Dodge does not actually have a fatal illness and that the game was planned. Miles clarifies that the rules are still in place and claims that Luger was the one who doped Dodge for $50,000. Dodge calls Val right away to inform her that they had been outplayed and that he is not suffering from cancer. Val is taken hostage by Miles as soon as he warns her to avoid Luger because he is the part of the play. Dodge then places traps at his father's former construction business for the remaining hunters, Nixon, Reagan, and Kennedy. As soon as the three of them arrive, they start hunting. Dodge and Reagan fight, and Reagan's hand bleeds from being caught in a beam. As Kennedy hunts her prey, Luger, who just so happened to be nearby, fatally wounds her and is killed. Luger then tells Dodge that what Miles said about having drugged Dodge is not true. Before the two leave the area, Dodge detonates the shop's bomb, instantly killing Reagan. Carnell arrives to clean up the mess as Nixon leaves. He is attacked by Dodge and demands to know where Val is. Carnell asserts that Miles established their headquarters in Dodge's abandoned high-rise project, the Carrington. Dodge runs over to the Carrington and finds Val bound and the place deserted. Nixon breaks up the final embrace between the two. He pursues Dodge to the rooftop, where they fight, resulting in Dodge falling off and hanging from the edge of the building. When the sun shines through, Nixon decides to put down his gun and assist Dodge in standing up, just as he is about to kill him by slicing his hand. The game has been over for the past 24 hours. Nixon then thanks him one last time before leaving for the day. As Val and Dodge reconnect, Miles calls Dodge to let him know he's won both the game and the money. If you like the video, subscribe and give us a like, it will help the channel. See you next time.